Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Rising incomes and wealth, longer lifespans. The Asian healthcare market is seen as one of the biggest growth stories in Asia over the next few years, if not decades. Today, we talk to Kathy Owing, healthcare analyst at Nikko Asset Management, about current trends and investment opportunities in Asia. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm happy to be here.
Kathy, what are the fundamental forces driving the Asian healthcare market today?
So, Thomas, the short answer is we are living longer lives. So, a generation ago, Asians used to live till their 60s, but now we can hope to live well into our 70s, 80s, and even beyond. Unfortunately, most diseases strike in our twilight years. For example, 80% of cancer incidence occurs after 50 years of age. That's the key fundamental demand driver for healthcare in Asia. Second, there has been gross underinvestment in healthcare. And we're not just talking about infrastructure, but the entire value chain. In countries such as China, India, Indonesia, and other ASEAN countries, COVID really showed up the underinvestment in healthcare. And through COVID, it became obvious that in a crisis, it was important for Asia to have the capability and the capacity to meet the region's healthcare needs. And lastly, if I may, epidemiological studies have shown that the most prevalent diseases in Asia frequently aren't quite the same as in the rest of the world. This could be due to genetic, diet, or environmental factors. And so there is a clear unmet medical need here that is driving R&D investments in the Asian healthcare market.
Artificial intelligence currently is the talk of the town in financial markets. So what impact will AI have on the Asian healthcare in the next few years?
One word, I think it will be transformative, but a word of caution too. We shouldn't expect those changes to happen overnight. And I think we both know that the healthcare industry is known to be frustratingly slow in adopting new technology. I think there are two broad areas where AI will have an impact on Asian healthcare. One is to improve medical diagnosis and treatment, and two, to increase efficiency in clinical practice as well as biomedical research. I'll give you one example of how AI is being used in the field of diagnosis. We see AI playing a major role in the future in automating medical image analysis, which frequently forms the basis of initial disease diagnosis. There are two goals in diagnosis. One is accuracy, and two is earlier diagnosis. And real-world studies have shown that AI algorithms perform better than radiologists for the detection of malignant nodules in chest X-rays in terms of higher reading accuracy. And this higher reading accuracy leads to earlier diagnosis of cancer. This is significant because the 5-year survival rate of a lung cancer patient diagnosed at stage 3 or 4 is roughly 20%. But if diagnosed at stage 1 or 2, is more than 70%. That's more than a 4-fold increase in survival. And last point here is that Asia has a severe lack of radiologists. An aging population and declining birth rates only serves to exacerbate the problem. So there's a pressing need to address this. And so far, we've just only touched on one area where AI can be applied in healthcare. There's others like chronic disease management, clinical research, clinical trials, and personalized medicine, and so on.
What are some of the innovations that have emerged post-pandemic in the healthcare system besides artificial intelligence?
Right. So I believe you're referring to post-pandemic. So what has changed, right? So because there's a lot of innovation that's going on. So first point I'll say is I think there's been a rethinking in terms of healthcare delivery. So the current healthcare delivery model in Asia is characterized by long lead times, high cost, poor access, and deteriorating demographic trends. So what if hospitals use AI to triage patients? What if non-emergency healthcare could be provided away from the hospital ecosystem? What if telemedicine and e-consultations became the norm instead of the exception? What if medicines could be prescribed online and delivered to our homes? What if a patient's home became his hospital? What if the decades-old method of healthcare delivery could be reimagined and reset? Then this will have a huge impact on healthcare costs, addressing access to care as well as hospital efficiency. So we think that there's this whole rethinking in terms of virtual care in the form of remote consultation, diagnosis, testing, all surrounding the idea of delivering healthcare outside of the hospital ecosystem as much as possible. The second innovation, if you like, that we think has emerged post-pandemic is mRNA vaccine development. Because after the success with COVID-19, many companies are now developing mRNA vaccines, not only for infectious diseases such as influenza, dengue, or rabies, but also therapeutic vaccines in the area of cancer. However, mRNA vaccine development is still in a very early stage. So also a word of caution there that we shouldn't be too quick in trying to raise our expectations there.
What are some of the regulatory hurdles that need to be addressed in the pharmaceutical sector, giving rise to instances of spurious drugs or pricing issues?
This is a key issue in the sense of we need to increase our vigilance and the surveillance by the relevant authorities to monitor the market for spurious drugs, including the policing of borders, right? So the ADB published a report some years back discussing some of the issues in this area, and it proposes better regulation of medicines for stronger regional health security. Some of the regulatory hurdles include the fact that drug regulatory bodies in Asia are much less well-resourced. For example, if you look at the FDA in the US and the EMA in Europe, they're very well resourced in the thousands of employees, or some of them above 10,000. But if you look at the drug regulatory bodies in Asia, a lot of them are still below 1,000 in the number of employees. And some of the more developing parts of Asia, some of the regulatory agencies are also not sufficiently qualified. So that could be one important regulatory hurdle. Secondly, there's a lack of effective cross-border collaboration with other national or international agencies with regard to surveillance. This means that there's a duplication of effort by national agencies. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense for regulatory harmonization, given that individual ingredients in various stages of production are completed in different countries. So why not have one global or regional effort to look into this area to address cross-border collaboration? And lastly, if we look at the post-marketing surveillance by regulatory bodies, there's a need to strengthen this area in the sense that we need more targeted, regular inspections of manufacturers, and this can remove poor quality medicines from the market in the supply chain.
Will the gap in health protection coverage and health insurances in several developing economies impact the growth of the Asian healthcare sector?
Before I answer that question, I'd like to say that health protection coverage has improved markedly in Asia over the past decade. Most countries in Asia have universal healthcare coverage to some extent today. But on average, the share of healthcare spending paid out of pocket in Asia has fallen. But in some countries, such as India, it still remains high, to the tune of 50%. We believe private insurers have yet to play a part to close the protection gap in Asia. As healthcare costs increase and governments come under more pressure to raise protection coverage, we believe it's only a matter of time before private healthcare insurers step up to play a significant role in funding healthcare in Asia. We see encouraging signs in China and Indonesia.
Which country or countries will lead the Asian healthcare market, and what are the advantages of those countries?
Geopolitical concerns aside, we believe it's China. Why? Firstly, China has a large population, and that represents a sizable domestic end market and the ability to conduct large-scale clinical trials. Secondly, China has a diverse talent pool that provides potential for innovation leadership. Thirdly, government support, and here I'll go into a bit of detail. The healthcare reform agenda in China, which began in 2009 and will be implemented all the way to 2030, will increase the affordability and accessibility of medicines for Chinese people. In the past, China overpaid for branded generic drugs whose patents had already expired, but big pharma companies still charged high prices for them. And that is why for a period from 2017 to 2022, the Chinese government adopted a volume-based procurement policy to lower the price of medicines, devices, and consumables. And these savings are being channeled to fund innovative drugs. The Chinese government, just like Korea 2 decades ago, attracted overseas talent back to China by providing tax incentives, land, and capital to raise investments in R&D and technology. And to this end, the government is still in the midst of fine-tuning policies regarding R&D support, new drug approval, and reimbursement of innovative medicines. And lastly, capital market support. In 2018, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange added Chapter 18A to its main board listing rules, allowing pre-revenue and pre-profit biotech companies to list in China on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. This was an important milestone in China's biopharma market development and has helped transform the whole healthcare investment landscape in China.
So while preparing for this interview, we came across the concept of CXOs. So can you elaborate? What is the role of CXOs in shaping the healthcare system in Asia?
I think two things. So it's hard to summarize because CXOs have grown to be quite large in Asia, especially in Korea and China. But if we could just narrow down to what is really their key roles in shaping the healthcare system in Asia, we think one, CXOs support innovation, especially biotech companies bringing their knowledge in research support, clinical development, the conduct of clinical trials, and manufacturing. And the secondly, CXOs bring scale benefits. So why is that so? It's becoming increasingly difficult for big pharma to predict the future success of pipelines in development and to build large-scale biologics manufacturing facilities ahead of new drug launches. So CXOs offer more flexible services and cater to a wide range of capacity needs, from small scale to commercial manufacturing at large scale if needed. So big pharma has increasingly been outsourcing biologics development and manufacturing to CXOs. And as antibody drugs become more complex in manufacture, outsourcing is likely to increase. For example, antibody drug conjugates, or we like to call them biologic missiles, are a highly complex modality in terms of process development and manufacturing. And we know that more than 50% of ADCs that are being developed today globally are being outsourced to CXOs. So in summary, we see Asian CXOs playing an important role in the biopharma value chain, not just in Asia, but globally.
So this was Katie, healthcare analyst at Nikko Asset Management. Katie, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your insights into the Asian healthcare market.
Thanks, Thomas.